Our forests, and each season brings a new face, a new personality. 1/4 of Arizona is covered with the various species of trees that make up our forest land. That's a surprising detail for those who think of us as strictly a desert state. The majority of our state's forests are owned and controlled by the government, and the government guards this precious resource and preserves it for all who come here. These trees are a home for wildlife, a sponge to hold precious snow and rain, a wonderful setting in nature's beauty for a family campsite. And they are more. Timber. It has helped build our country, and today remains a vital part of our lives. A giant industry has grown from the need for these trees, an industry that must work hand in hand with public use, careful planning by the Forest Service, and the findings of scientific research. We're going to look at some of the elements involved in using this natural resource. Tonight, we'll look at Arizona as a timberland.
Timberland, another in the Copper State Cavalcade series of specials. Sponsored by Phelps Dodge Corporation, Arizona's leading copper producer.
Enjoy a wealth of Arizona history. Compliments of Phelps Dodge Corporation. From the Ground Up was written for Phelps Dodge by former Governor Jack Williams. And this booklet is offered in observance of Phelps Dodge's 100th year of copper mining in Arizona. It's a collection of colorful short stories about Arizona's early mining days. You'll read about the prospector with a stubborn burro, Spanish explorers who claimed a new mine, boom towns that flourished and faded. There are stories of gold diggers, gunslingers, gamblers, and many more. From the Ground Up is free and is available at banks, savings and loan offices, and your local Chamber of Commerce. Phelps Dodge, standing with Arizona for 100 years.
This is Karl Webb. He'll tell you that he's the oldest continuous logger in the White Mountains, and at 67, he's still going strong. Karl's from a logging family. His father, J. Henry Webb, started his business back in 1918, and Karl says he remembers working with the horses.
I logged with the horses up until 1927. Skidded and loaded and hauled them into the mill with them. We had a 27 Chevy truck. Been driving trucks ever since that time.
Karl is an independent logger. He's got a contract with the Fort Apache Timber Company, owned and operated by the Apache Indian tribe. He says his contract is for 6 to 7 million board feet a year. That's from stump to mill. And that means he and his small crew will cut, load, and haul about 20,000 trees. Today, he works pretty much with his son, LeVan. But once Karl and his 6 brothers had a much bigger operation, including their own sawmill. He says he prefers it this way, and so does his wife, Coral.
Oh, it's the only way. It's the only way. You keep your individuality, and if they want to take off a day or a week, they can close up shop and do it. As long as they get their quota in and follow the schedule of the year, why, they can work it out.
She married into the timber business 47 years ago. When they were a bigger operation, she used to help out in the sawmill. Now, she's content to visit Karl's harvesting sites whenever she can spare the time. Carl's day is spent carrying loads to the sawmill in White River. But he says the trip doesn't bore him.
See more than most people do.
What?
Sunrises and sunsets, the moons and the stars, different shadows in the mountains.
You like that, huh?
Yeah.
People.
People honk at the girls down the road.
How long are you going to stay in it?
Till I die.
There really aren't that many independent loggers today. Times have really changed. Lumbering started in our state in the mid-1800s, and most of the logs then were used in mining. However, the timber industry really became a big part of our state with an event that helped open up the West and certainly made this area more appealing. It was the coming of the railroad. This is a ponderosa pine, so-called because of its ponderous size. Very versatile wood and therefore quite popular with the timber companies. And the richest continuous stand of ponderosa pine is right here in Arizona. Now, our timber industry deals with other species, of course, like the Douglas fir and aspen, for example, but none are as valuable as this pine. It takes about 150 years to grow a tree, sometimes longer. The Forest Service has worked out a method for harvesting on public timberland, marking the older trees and those starting to decay, along with the healthier ones, which make better saw timber. And they always leave enough for the next harvest. This is called working a sustained yield, and that next harvest could be another 20 years down the road. When timber people talk about the future of our forests, whether it be on a governmental or business level, they're usually talking over 100 years in the future.
If we manage it, if we allow it to regenerate itself and to grow to its potential, then it will be there for generations to come. But if we go out and we abuse that resource, if we don't manage it, if we destroy that resource, then we won't have it.
And the next step here, loading the trucks. It only takes about 15 minutes to load each truck. Very impressive when you consider that each tree weighs several tons. And then, off to the sawmill. Remember the short 15 minutes it took to load one of these trucks? Well, watch this. Up to 70,000 pounds in one massive mouthful. The logs are piled onto huge decks here at the yard, stacked until they're needed. And when they are needed, humans and machinery work together to create the building materials of tomorrow. The debarker does just that, strips each log of its tough protective bark covering. Each round log is squared off so it can be cut into boards. History tells us that in early Arizona logging, a little over 1 million board feet could be harvested in 1 year. That's less than 1 day's work now. The sawmill operated by Kaibab Industries in Fredonia also tries to get as much use out of each tree as it can. A laser beam guides the saw when squaring off this log, while a computer figures out exactly how many board feet will be produced by each finished saw log. Their garden products division makes use of the bark. Kaibab officials say they use about 98% of any tree brought here. The other 2% is mostly sawdust, and they're working on more uses for that. They have a chipping machine here. It's a very loud contraption that takes their scraps and 2 small pieces of wood and turns them into something that will probably be sold to their rival, Southwest. Southwest will then turn it into something very useful. But let's start at the beginning. This little machine is called a feller buncher. And as you can see, there's just room for 1 person in it. But it does a mighty big job. Sometimes trees grow too thickly together. Now that leads to a lot of competition for the moisture in the ground. So the Forest Service will designate an area for thinning, taking out certain trees so others will have a better chance to grow. Most of these trees are too small to make good saw timber, so they're called pulpwood. After this wood is cut, it will be taken back to a yard near the logging camp. Eventually, it'll be put into a portable chipper, and the next stop, the paper mill near Snowflake. It's true, the timber you saw being snipped in the forest could very well end up as the newsprint for tomorrow's newspaper. Each chip is supposed to be 1 inch square and 1/8 inch thick. From here, the chips are screened to make sure they're the right size and then dumped into huge piles. The chips must be constantly moved. They generate their own heat, sometimes reaching temperatures of 150 degrees. If this pile were to actually catch on fire, well, you can imagine the problems involved in trying to put it out. Some pulpwood is shipped here intact, and then it's cut into 5-foot lengths by this bundle bucker. Usually, but not always, this wood ends up as newsprint, the chips for linerboard. And even that's not all that's put to use here as pulp. Recycled cardboard boxes and newspapers are collected and shipped here. They're carried to this pulper feed conveyor and dumped into a pulper. Original materials are fed into huge vats called digesters. These have been compared to a pressure cooker. And with the use of chemicals, the pulpwood and chips are cooked into a pulp. The pulp is fed into machines that form it into newsprint or linerboard. Linerboard is what usually ends up as cardboard boxes. Water is removed from the sheets, the product is dried and smoothed, and then formed into huge rolls. After being cut, the rolls are loaded into trucks or railroad cars for shipment to customers, some here in Arizona, some out of state. And we'll be back in just a moment to meet some people whose main concern is keeping our forests growing. We live in a time when our natural resources are often in danger of being used up. We must not let that happen. And our forests, a very precious resource to us, is a renewable one. If we care for it, if we protect it and use it with great wisdom, it will always be here. To provide us with shelter, with paper to aid in communicating with the world, and with a beauty that could only originate with nature. Ours is a fortunate state. Industry, government, and private individuals are all working together to preserve our Arizona timberlands, that our children's children may also have them. This is Bob Davies. Good night.